Sounded dirty. How did your warning sound dirty? I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
Hey, I'll show you foul language.
I'll be right back. I forgot my chapstick. Welcome back to I'll See Myself Out. I'm Dan Lisho.
I'm Norm Reynolds.
I'm Terry, just Terry.
I'm Ryan Patel.
Consider these your only warnings.
There will be foul language.
There will be spoilers.
There will definitely be foul language. There should be times where just in the middle of while we're talking, somebody reaches into frame with just a finger full of Vaseline and just lubes up Dan's mouth really sloppily.
I think that'd be great.
That creeps me out every time you use that chapstick. I feel like I'm in like Silence of the Lambs.
I know it's winter, but how fucking dry is your mouth?
Oh, it's like sandpaper in there.
What's the peak level of moisture? Like, anybody walk up to you and they're like, you got a wet mouth, son? Dan does not have a dry mouth, I'll tell you that.
Okay, so this is 2009's 2012, starring John Cusack, Amanda Peet.
And the Mayan Calendar.
I wonder if it has an IMDb page.
I could hope so.
Yeah, the Mayan Calendar has its own IMDb page.
Film is based on the Mayan calendar, the world ending in 2012 and all that crap. My reality of the whole thing is, they get pissed off at the scientists because they're off by like 4 months. We're supposed to have like 4 more months. You told us. He's fucking close. He said 4 years.
I'm sorry, also, so were those 4 months, like, were you counting on those? Was it like, let's make our plan with no breathing room whatsoever?
The premise of this whole thing's so strange for a couple of reasons. One is that in the backdrop of the movie, it's like all of the most cataclysmic events that people predict would wipe the Earth out happen. So by that, like in particular in the movie, they reference Yellowstone National Park going up, and the supervolcano erupting. So they reference that in the film,
Which was spectacular, by the way. Right. That was incredible when that thing blew.
They reference the basically LA falling into the ocean. Yep. In reference to that as well, all the tsunamis kind of traveling all over the world. But the whole onset of this thing is not like global warming or anything like that. It's, as you kind of put it, the film kind of sets off as like giant solar flares, bigger than have ever been emitted from the sun before, heating up the Earth's core.
And not fucking with the magnetosphere.
And playing with the magnetic pulse. It wasn't like it would just be something that we could, like they could detect ahead of time, even though they kind of sensed that they were preparing for something like this to happen. But it was just kind of weird that like they thought that they could forecast this thing that was like way more catastrophic than anything that had ever happened before. The fucking Mayan calendar is like barely referenced. It's only referenced because they tried to like make some people seem like skeptical religious nuts.
Well, it was Woody Harrelson's the only one that ever mentions the Mayan calendar.
And in the news clips that they show during like the initial panic segments, there's like a group of suicidal cultists as well, but it's never like referenced as like a formal warning to the government or anything like that. It's not like somebody was really superstitious and like, oh, like that could happen. Like we should consider that all of the worst scientific geological changes that impact our species are actually going to happen. I mean, it's not like climate change was just like we started talking about it 2 years ago. So it's weird that they didn't try to tie that in as like something a little bit more realistic to really try to scare the shit out of everybody.
That's for Geostorm. That's later.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, they need a Scott to pull that whole plot line together.
Again, with us not being scientists, I'm not positive how microwaves work, but I know that it doesn't heat the inside of my food first.
Not microwaves, neutrinos.
I feel like they drew the comparison like it was the same thing. Like it was microwaving the Earth's core. I was wondering if it's heating up and melting
Can't even take myself
the
seriously.
center of the Earth. Couldn't help but feel like maybe some of the ocean would evaporate.
Here's the interesting thing about things heating up from the inside first. That was like a misconception with things that are put in microwaves. It actually depends. We're getting into a little bit of science now. I watched some YouTube videos on grapes that basically turn into plasma when you microwave them. It has to do with the length of the wave and the size of the medium that it's going through. So grapes happen to be almost the exact perfect size for there to be arcing, and the inside actually cooks first.
Are you suggesting that they could have saved the Earth if there were just more grapes?
What I'm saying
That's
is...
what I'm hearing, Norm.
I'm just saying that you can definitely heat something from the inside first, but there are certain factors. That's why your food doesn't heat up from the inside first.
Just a disclaimer for our viewers, never try anything at home.
Especially the things we talk about.
Another thing that really kind of threw me off was like the way that these so-called like the solar flares and the way that they impacted the Earth, I think there was in the news a couple of years ago, they were predicting that there was a big solar storm that was supposed to actually impact the Earth. And they were actually saying like it would take down power grids and stuff and cause disruptions to our service.
Because of magnetics.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the severity that they were playing off of in this movie, but it sure seemed like everything went straight to earthquakes as soon as that shit reached Earth.
It's like if I put my finger into the drink, a little wave here compared to a fucking tsunami.
Right.
Completely different sizes.
So the neutrinos, the way that I understand them is that they're so small, they go through everything. So they just pass directly through our Earth. And the entire movie is kind of hinging on that no longer being a thing.
Right. They needed a setup just for everything to start rolling.
So that's the little bit of fiction that they had to run with in order for this movie to be possible.
The other amount of fiction is like, how does a fucking writer / limo driver manage to survive the cataclysmic events to get back to fucking Tibet?
So that leads us straight into like, I guess the better parts of this movie rather than worrying about the science of it, right? The whole family. I don't feel like it was used to compel anybody emotionally. I felt like the family being this kind of center point of the movie was like to actually explain the scope of what was happening, to like actually make the viewer understand like how small like one person's part in the Earth going to shit would really be and how hard it would be for them to actually achieve what they did. I felt like that family wasn't really like, they weren't really like a compelling story as a family.
They were horrible people too.
But I guess for me, definitely, that played a huge role in making this film entertaining. Like, I felt like the biggest takeaway was trying to figure out how John Cusack fits that giant set of balls he runs around in the movie with, and the shit that he definitely has in his pants, escaping death like 1,000 times. But at least the running around is kind of like explained in the movie. There were subtle little things to make it necessary to follow their story, but really, like, the family, to me anyway, seemed like they were the leaders in like kind of following the cataclysm around the globe to see different things. Every time there was a difficulty getting to the next step, there was like a line or an action from another character being like, hurry the fuck up, start the plane, get in the car. Like, every time you got to a point where you were like, how are they supposed to survive this? That the movie just kind of shoved you into the next sequence.
The first time it happened, obviously, when the major earthquake hit and they're hiding under the table, Cusack runs in, he's like, come on, we gotta go. They're like, I think it's safer under here. He's like, get your fucking asses out of here.
Which I really liked, actually.
And it was the best part of like when he just lost complete control of his like staying cool.
It's like when you're watching a horror movie and you see somebody who's doing something stupid and you're like, you want to like force them into doing the fucking sensible thing. His character is like that character. He is you. Like in the movie, he's like, make the fucking smart choice.
That's around the same time that right after the earthquake split the grocery store in half. So they figured that lying under a table is the safest thing than being in the fucking air.
The way that they portrayed a lot of things in the movie was like, a lot of the characters were really important, but at least like they proved kind of like the reality of how hard it would be to deal with the situation. When that wave shows up and they show like the cruise ship tipping over from the tsunami, like that gives you scope as to like how just fucked you'd be. Every situation is just like built up to make you feel how hopeless the situation is. Although everybody would have been way better off if Kurt Russell or Kevin Costner were there to save the day. Instead, they got John Cusack.
John Cusack is basically your average dude just trying to hold shit together best that he can. This is the perfect example of talented actors trying their best to deliver mediocre lines and doing like an okay job.
By the time we got to John Cusack's character, I was done with new characters. It was probably a half hour into the movie, and I just didn't want any more characters.
But then Woody Harrelson.
What?
But then you had Woody Harrelson.
I said I was done. I was finished.
It's a really long movie to just hang on to Woody Harrelson. It's not enough of a saving grace.
That's the only way I could get through the friggin' movie, was hoping that Woody Harrelson, even though he was happily blowing himself up.
This movie would have been a lot better to me if, based on the pacing, and again, spoilers, by the time they make it all the fucking way to Tibet, if they just got on the boat and everything just happened right when they got on the boat and everything went great. Because honestly, from the time that they got on the arcs to the time that the movie ends, felt like a fucking 1,000 years.
How about the bit where the helicopter, that doctor was pilot? By the way, when did he turn into a stunt pilot? Because he was like, yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, like, you need to know exactly how to pilot a plane to have the wings not fucking get torn off.
When was he flying a helicopter? Did that happen in the movie?
Did I say helicopter? I got confused. We just talked about the 6th day.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
The
Everything's fine
little
now.
stunt plane. Still, He was doing like,
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing he didn't do was a goddamn barrel roll, but like
Yeah.
and then the physics of what was going on with the landscape. How did the land get higher than he was at some points with trains flying
I
out?
mean, when they were escaping LA, there were like suburbs and like subway stations and trains falling out of the earth beneath them, but like they were kind of down
and I
inside
think the
of
train
it.
fell like above him.
Yeah, the Earth, like pieces of it were teetering this way and then sliding into the ocean. We want to back up just a little bit more. Like, how about that fucking limo stunt driving?
Well, that's what I meant about John Cusack having the biggest balls of any human being left on Earth.
The only thing I could think is like, I don't want to live through the end of this. Let's just die.
You would think by sheer luck alone they would have popped a fucking tire or something.
Those steel radials, man. See why I had to hold on to Woody Harrelson? Because everything else is fucking ridiculous.
There were definitely a lot of moments of like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? Why are we making all these stupid choices? And
I ask that question to myself every day.
And also treating John Cusack like he was crazy. When somebody's acting like out of character and you're like, yeah, won't you just call back when you calm down? Like maybe there's a little something to what he's talking about, you know?
Especially if they're not partial to that kind of outburst.
Well, maybe he
What I
is. There's no real backstory outside of what you see in the movie.
I think the only thing you see is that his ex-wife still actually somewhat cares for him because she, again, gives up her new husband like that as soon as he falls into the gear shift.
I mean, it was like 28 days later. There was a time lapse there.
she had a few days to really figure out where her priorities lie.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Brock Street Espresso. Thanks. Next week, we'll be talking about Sixth Day.
What do you rate this movie out of?
I rate this movie 7 people who I know nothing about drowning in giant waves out of a possible 10 people I don't know about drowning in big giant waves. I give this movie 1 out of 2 giant John Cusack-sized balls.
Full Twinkie.
I wish I didn't watch it. I want that time back.
I give this like 8 volcanoes out of 10 Woody Harrelsons.
I want scale. We talking St. Helens, Pompeii.
We're talking like Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii, melt the face off the earth. I hated it that much.
I thought it was great.
I'm not following. You said like 7 out of 10. That doesn't sound like hate to me.
Well, it doesn't even match the Woody Harrelsons. It's just kind of. I'll see myself out.
This is hard, guys.
Yeah.
Should I? Does this look good? Should I? Oh, we got crumbs.
Looking great there, Dano.
Looking just perfect, smart.
Don't let them build you up.
Look at
You
all
look like a piece of
spiffy.
goddamn shit.
Goddamned shit. Damned.
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 God damn it.
By
God
the Lord.
damn it.
The Lord has damned your shit.
God damned.